The last question that I have for you also relates to seafood. And this is regarding some concerns that we're hearing that the forthcoming FDA seafood advice to pregnant women on seafood consumption may not be entirely based on science. This is something, of course, that is gravely concerning. Back in 2014, there was a statement that was released on the draft seafood advice that spells out pretty clearly. Science now tells us that limiting or avoiding fish during pregnancy and early childhood can mean missing out on important nutrients that can have a positive impact on growth and development as well as your general health. Now, the concern is that the FDA has revised that advice in a way that ignores this net effects report. So the question to you this morning is, what is the status of the FDA's seafood advice for pregnant women? And I guess what I'd like to hear from you specifically is whether or not, when that advice is released, whether that final seafood advice for pregnant women and nursing mothers will be based in science, namely using the net effects report.
I can assure you it will be based in science, and I think the recommendation will be something that will be very good for American people.
Why would it not be based on the net effects report?
Well, you know, we're having to balance a lot of input and considerations here.
And wouldn't that input and consideration be based on the science that went into that report?
Well, we've based on all the scientific facts that can be brought to bear that accumulate over time. So these will all be considered. I think you'll be happy with the recommendation when it comes out.
Well, I appreciate that assurance. It doesn't necessarily get me to where I would like to be, which is a recognition that you will utilize that net effects report, the report that very clearly outlines why it is important for the nutritional needs of not only the mother but developing children as well.
I mean, I'm very familiar with the concept, but the detail I'm going to have to come back to you on to make sure that.
And can you tell me when we might anticipate this report then?
Well, as you know, I can't give exact dates or timelines, but this is a fairly straightforward issue, and it's a high priority, and we've had discussions about it recently, so it's going to move along.
Well, and I would agree that it is high priority, it is important, it is overdue, and certainly the science is overwhelming in its support for the recommendations, good sound recommendations based in science that pregnant and nursing women be given good advice when it comes to seafood in their diets. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.